I have water, and I have Kleenex. I woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning with my nose running, eyes watering, and welcome to Denver. Before we get started today, and I'm only doing this because it's the only one I know about, so if I knew there were more, I would do it for all of you, but we have a birthday in the room. Alicia Williams from Tennessee, stand up. Happy birthday. So make sure you say happy birthday to her so she can really enjoy being in Denver on her birthday. Brian talked about NCCC being here, but I also want to shout out to AmeriCorps, who has had a table out there in the last 2 days, and it's just thrilled to see all aspects of national service be here. So I guess yeah. I'm drinking water already. This isn't a good sign, is it? So I was supposed to start this out by saying good afternoon and welcome. So welcome, good afternoon. It's our final plenary of this seminar. And I've had a tremendous, great time talking with many of you, learning some new things alongside you. And you know what? Every day I get up and I learn something new, so you're never too old to learn. The opportunities are really learning experiences for me because I chat with you in the halls and at breaks, and I just get to learn more about you. But more importantly, I hear your stories and learn about the volunteers that are serving. These sessions are great for me because we don't have unlimited travel funds, and I try to watch taxpayers' dollars. And so I don't get the opportunity to come and visit everyone. I wish I could. I hear stories and I'm like, oh, I want to go there, but I don't get to. So the best next thing is to convene with you at seminars like this so I can actually learn about your programs and hear the tremendous impact you're making across your communities. Enough about me. I promised to talk about Senior Corps. I think that's why we're all here, right? But I also want to tell you, we do have a speaker coming today, a very honored speaker, and I will stop my presentation if the mayor walks in the room. So just bear with us. When he arrives, we'll be glad to talk about the mayor. So let's talk a little bit about what lies ahead. Go ahead, drink. I didn't mean it that way, but I'm not going to repeat her. As CNCS transitions to a new regional structure, we thought that today's luncheon should focus on our Senior Corps progress over the last year and the future. And I do want to provide you with a brief update on some of the details of our transformation and sustainability plan and just what lies ahead. First, let me say, and I'm not bragging for me, I'm bragging for all of you, that Senior Corps has had a pretty good year. Let me just cite a few of our accomplishments. You know, when I first became the director and came on board, I think you all remember in the very first time you ever heard me speak, I said that I didn't know what Senior Corps was. And it was sad because it was the best kept secret in America. And I promised you then that I will make sure that it will not be the best kept secret anymore. So today, I'm proud to say that we're making tremendous strides in that arena, particularly among our federal partners. We now have collaborations on various levels with the Department of Justice, the Administration for Community Living, the Consumer Finance Protection Bureau, the Veterans Health Administration, the Federal Trade Commission, the Postal Inspection Service, and others. These collaborations continue to grow. You all heard me talk about the Veterans Health Administration and our 5 pilot programs that we're doing across the country. One of them happens to be right here in Colorado Springs, right, Jill? And also in Montana. But that demonstration project is really going to kick off strong. We finalized everything with the VA, so we're really excited about that. And I hope to, maybe even in Columbus, announce a new partnership and a demonstration project with the Department of Justice, where our RSVP volunteers will be working with Adult Protective Services, so stay tuned. But you know, the most important aspect of these collaborations is that now, not like before, when these other federal agencies are thinking about projects that they would like to implement, they actually seek out and think about Senior Corps. That's something that just didn't happen before, and I'm very happy about that. They've come to understand how valuable our programs and our volunteers can be in helping them carry out their missions. We are now top of the mind, and we should think that is real progress. So, Senior Corps Director, I want to thank you, because that wouldn't be possible without the work that you do every day in your communities. So when I tell the Attorney General or I tell the Administrator for ACL, we can do that, that's because I know you can do that. So thank you. Time to drink. Don't go back and tell everybody I was drinking the whole time. In addition to partnerships, this past year, we implemented our new long-awaited Senior Corps regulations. I want you to know that this was a priority when I heard about it when I came here, because implementing these new rules helps to ease some of your burdens. We finally eliminated the 80-20 rule and provided you more flexibility in managing our programs. It was a long process, but one that finally came to fruition on January 31st. And Jill Sears, please stand. I want you all to know that she was instrumental in making this happen. When General Counsel told her no, she said, "Oh, yes, we can." And then in February, we released the results of our Senior Corps Foster Grandparent and Senior Companion Health Benefits Longitudinal Study, which, you know, spent a lot of money to do that, but it proved what we all know. Volunteering is good for your health. Rob Cox, Rob. One of our great Senior Corps members here on the team, led that study and has been stationed outside at one of the exhibits booths, so I hope you've had a chance to talk to Rob about the study. I encourage you to use this information. I use it every day when I go talk to partners or potential private sector partners. Use it when you conduct your local recruitment and outreach efforts. Use it when you meet with your local and state congressional members. Use the information when you seek local funders for your programs. And be sure to share it with your volunteers at your in-service. To support this broader outreach, we've also stocked, Jill, you might have to correct me if I say this wrong, copies of the issue brief on the health longitudinal study free of charge at our CNCS Publications warehouse, and they can get that online, right? Okay, I knew that right. So, we continue to work with our Chief Risk Officer to contact, and we contracted a vendor channeler and provided grant augmentations to help you implement the 3 components of the criminal history check. I've been here 2 years as of last week, and I hope someday I don't have to go to bed thinking about CHC. I want to think about the great things we do, but it is what it is, right? We implemented an exemption period during which disallowance will not be enforced for noncompliance and provided funds to help you with the cost of the rechecks during this exemption period. I fought for that. I thought that was very important, that we helped fund what you had to do. So now let me take a minute to remind you, the exemption period ends June 30th. There will be no extensions. There will be no extensions. And in case you didn't hear me, there will be no extensions. I will say, though, I'm very proud that almost 100% of our grantees from Senior Corps participated, and the few that opted out, were RSVP programs that only were really affected by staff. So I want to get off CHC, but I have to remind you of one thing. Please recheck your checks before June 30th. Please recheck your checks, and if you need information on how to do that, we'll be glad to talk to you afterwards. But I hate to see you go through this whole process and not adjudicate something or not finish it, so we appreciate the hard work. I know it's a lot of hard work. Last week, you should have received CHC Guide to Enforcement Action. I think we've told you all along that we encourage you to do the rechecks of your system because there would be a more punitive enforcement at the end of it, and that starts July 1st. If you haven't seen the guide, please be sure to check your email and review this guide carefully. It includes new compliance remedies and a new cost-based disallowance structure. I hope that you dialed in to the CHC disallowance call on Monday for grantees, and that was just held this past Monday and was hosted by Laura Giblin, the Chief Risk Officer. But I will tell you, I do listen, and I've heard from a few of you, actually quite a few of you, that there was some confusion and some conflicting information given on that call on Monday. So Jill and I have a list, right? And as soon as I get back to the office this coming Monday, I'm going to clarify that confusion, and we'll make sure we get back with you right away. So make sure before you leave today if there's just questions you have, or at least make us knowledgeable of that. In the midst of all this activity, we managed to conduct a highly competitive RSVP competition that awarded $13.6 million to fund 50,000 RSVP volunteers in 150 communities in 40 states and territories, and I think that should get an applause. So I hope, I said that I think Senior Corps has made a lot of progress in this past year, and I hope you all feel that. I hope you all feel like you had a pretty good year, and the momentum is building. But guess what? We ain't done yet. As we look towards 2020, and I was reading this morning in my hotel room at like 4:30, I'm like, 2020, really? I can't believe we're almost there. That's just amazing. Time flies when you're having fun, right? I want to continue this momentum. To date, congressional appropriations for Senior Corps looks very promising. And while there's no guarantee, remember, there's no guarantee in life, until a bill is signed, let me remind you, it's a long process. I was delighted to hear that there was a proposed increase for our programs, and actually I have an update. Yesterday, the House passed the appropriations bill 226 to 203, awarding CNCS $55 million increase. $13.4 of that is for Senior Corps. But let me remind you, it's a long process. The Senate still has to propose theirs. The Senate and House has to come together, and you know I'm a political appointee. Let me repeat that. The Senate and the House have to come together, and then the President will need to sign it. So it's a long process. But you all should feel really good, because last year the increase was $6 million. The proposed increase this year is $13.4 million. And the reason that's happening is because the work that you are doing in your communities. So give yourself a round of applause. You know, we're talking about FY 2020. I like that word, 2020. But I have a few things left to do in 19. And one of those will be, in the next couple of weeks, I will be announcing, everybody always says, what are you doing with your money? Well, sometimes I have to wait till I know where I am with the money. So we should, around June 20th, know where we are with all the funds from 2019. But in the next couple of weeks, I can guarantee you that I will be announcing a new augmentation for RSVP across the board for the existing programs for growth in recruitment. And I'm really excited about that. So, and of course, later this summer, and my team keeps telling me this, and I'm like, already, really? We'll start our 2020 RSVP competition, so it comes around pretty quickly. You know, we want to keep these programs in communities and bring new sponsor organizations into our portfolio. And one thing I didn't do this year, and I actually regret it, but it will be done in 2020, and I only blame myself this year because I made that decision. We will do a new FGP and SCP replacement competition in 2020. We have a lot of areas we need to fill. So now, enough about Senior Corps for the moment. As you know, CNCS has been working diligently on our transformation and sustainability plan that moves us from a state structure to a regional one. 2/3 of the brick and mortar state spaces are now closed, but you heard me say brick and mortar because the state offices aren't closed. They are still being worked by the state directors, and the operational staff in those states are teleworking full-time. Before I talk about this, I have to drink. I want you all to know that I am really excited about the future. And I know it's an uncertain time, but this isn't written down, so I'm telling you from here. I think it's going to be better for Senior Corps, more consistent for Senior Corps, and I can assure you in all of these negotiations and discussions that you are on my mind and in the forefront as we work towards the new future state. We're beginning the alignment or the realignment of roles and new assignments, and interviews are occurring for portfolio managers and senior portfolio managers, a process that will continue until the end of the month. We're also in the process of reviewing for the program analyst positions. However, recently we had some exciting announcements. We announced some of the members of the new regional structure leadership team. First of all, I want to tell you that Kristen David will come to us from HHS and will report to Aaron McGrath as Aaron's Deputy Director for Regional Operations. And we look forward to having Kristen join us. Many of you, boy, this air is really getting to me today. Many of you know the other announcements, but I'm going to go over those again today. That CNCF staff will be transitioning to new positions, and I'm very excited about this. First of all, I believe in promoting from within. I also believe that it gives an opportunity to those that have worked so hard to stay with us, and that's important. You know, we are not, Senior Corps is not considered, when it comes to staffing, as one of the impacted departments. But I always say we are impacted, because my staff is impacted every day because they're human. And we understand the impact in your states. You like your state directors. You care about the people. So do we. So when I announce the next three that you've already read, but I'm very excited, I want you to know I was in part of the interview process and just am a firm believer of raising up those that are already serving with us and continue moving forward. So I'm glad to say that Maggie Garvey, who's the State Program Director for Kansas, will now be the Regional Administrator in Manchester, New Hampshire for the Northeast region. Michael Laverty, who serves as the Southwest Cluster Area Manager, will transition to Regional Administrator for the North Central region. And I'm not going to drink before I say you. And Ken Goodson, who's here with us today, who is the Southwest Regional Director for NCCC, will transition to the Region Administrator for our Mountain Region, which is Denver. Ken, please stand. Congratulations. What, are you bringing me air? Jill brought this to me this morning, and she said, here's oxygen. I'm not doing this in front of everybody. What are you talking about? Oh, Rob, you just got me there. So let's talk about some excitement in Senior Corps. Rob and Corinda, will you join me on the stage? Drum roll. Yeah. I'm pleased to say, beginning next month, Robin will transition to Senior Corps headquarters in Washington from Tennessee, where she served as and you guys, we haven't announced this to anyone else, so you're hearing it here first. Shh, don't tell anybody. Just kidding. Where she served as the Tennessee State Director, and she will be the new deputy for Senior Corps. Robin, I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have you join the team, and would you want to say something? She'll actually officially start with us on July 7th.
Well, thank you. I know many of you, and it's so exciting to come to these conferences and see people from different states. I told Debbie when I did this interview that shortly after I graduated from college, I was a teacher, and I had a foster grandparent volunteer in my classroom. Yeah, kind of cool. So I see this as a circle coming together. I've worked with many of you. I'm excited for what's ahead of us and to keep the support of Senior Corps. So Debbie, I look forward to joining the team, and thank you.
I have to tell you, when I called and offered her the position, I said, now, Robin, take a few days and think about it. She goes, what are you talking about? I don't need to think about it. I'm in. So Robin, welcome. We can't wait. Robin is joining our small but mighty Senior Corps team, and I just know you're going to be a tremendous asset. Jill, will you stand up? And I hope I don't cry in this. Jill Sears has been serving as our acting deputy director, and so please give her a huge applause. She has become a good friend, a good senior advisor, a great confidant. See, I told you I wouldn't make it. And I'm filling in the gaps. We have 8 o'clock calls in DC, and Jill has to be on those calls at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I'll call her at 6 o'clock at night and go, Jill, what in the heck am I going to do in this situation? So anyhow, she's been a great friend, a great partner, and don't think you're getting away, because you're not. I still know your number, and you'll always be a senior advisor to me. Thank you so very, very much. As for other transition news, there's also a group. You see how I just transitioned anything with tears top, and I just, I have to, or I'll just really start crying, I think. Jill, you mean a lot, so thank you. So I think you all know, but there's a group exploring the CNCS brand, and we're also exploring improving recruitment. So you guys might think that we just come to these seminars and don't pay attention, or I don't think you think that, because I think you know better. But I heard you loud and clear yesterday when you clapped when the panel talked about recruitment. So we actually have 3 new things happening with recruitment that are works in progress. First of all, these little cards, see these little cards? You're going to have the opportunity to get these cards in the front for this purpose this week. It says improving the quality of life for all generations. And on the back it says learn new skills, live longer, leave a legacy, learn more at seniorcorps.gov, and then it has the hotline number on it. We're going to make these available to you all, so if you're in the grocery store or at a soccer game or whatever, you can just pass it out. If you want to go by the senior center, we're also working to give the hotline new script. So if someone calls and wants to know about our program, they'll know exactly what to talk about. So that's number 1. Number 2, catching breath. We are working on a new Pathfinder program for the website. What we want to be able to happen is a potential volunteer can go to the website, and we'll talk about technology in a minute, but they can go to the website, look up their state, and look up their county, and find every opportunity to serve with Senior Corps in their county. And then they won't contact Washington, D.C., they will contact you. So we're still working through the logistics of that, but we've been working with OEA. Sam's here, by the way, great presentation yesterday. Sam, thank you. We're still working through the logistics of that, and we probably have to do some, here's where I don't always know the jargon, some changes in e-grants, or just to capture more information for you, like who is your recruitment person, what number do you want them to call, what's the email address. But until that time, I'm not stopping. They're still going to get the information, so I think that's great, because if I'm a volunteer and I call and somebody sends me to Washington, D.C., I'm going to go, They need to talk to the people that are local and talk to you that knows them, or at least their neighborhood. So that's number 2. And number 3, which I can't tell you a whole lot about because it's just starting, but CNCS is going to put on a national recruitment campaign for all of our programs. When we talk about branding, I don't know how long it took me to remember what CNCS stood for. So you should have all received a brand awareness survey that was distributed. It's now closed, but I hope that you all took the time and filled it out. A third-party research is compiling the focus groups, all of the data along from stakeholders' interviews, and sometime later this summer as a director I'll hear about the analysis of all that data. But let me assure you of one thing. If you've heard a rumor about what we're going to be called in the future, that's all it is. It's a rumor. Nothing's been decided. Breath, Denver. One of the issues, though, that's on my mind constantly, and I know Betty and Janine and Maria and many of you, we talk about it all the time, and that's outreach for Senior Corps. With the new structure, I know that's a major concern. And so while today I wish I could tell you in just specific bullet points how that's going to work, and I can't, but I want you to know that while the outreach and partnerships positions are not yet posted, I want you to know that I continue in all of the conversations to stress the importance of the role of Senior Corps, outreach, local connections, how important it is to all of you that we don't lose that. So stay tuned. It's a priority for me, and I just want you all to know that I've heard and I understand. As far as TSP goes, there's a couple of working groups still going on, and I have been so pleased over the last couple months, especially this last month, as we start to get down into the nitty-gritty of what's going to happen in the future state, is that truly I feel as a director, Senior Corps director, that we've had a lot of input and listening, and we've collaborated with AmeriCorps, Chester, Eileen, myself, and I'm going to come back to that. Brian, are we good? A couple minutes? Huh?
Running a little bit late.
Okay.
So about 5 to 10 minutes.
No, I'm going to stay right with this. So we've been really part of this. This past week we looked at a regional operations plan, the first draft of it. We've looked at the grant award life cycles and how that's going to work. And Eileen and Chester and I try to get together and, what's important for Senior Corps, I explain that to them. What's important for state and national, they explain that to me. And we've tried to really collaborate so we can go to the table to make sure it's good for all of us. And so I've been really, really pleased with the process. So the working groups are still working. That sounds funny, but yeah, the working groups are still working. So we have the business process work group, determining ways that work can be streamlined, and the training work group. They're reviewing all of the current trainings, looking for gaps and creating a list of new training and how that will be structured. So stay tuned. We'll keep you more posted on that's happening. I know for years CNCS has operated in the same way, and actually we get a lot of negative reactions. And so, as I told you earlier, I'm really excited about the new future state. I know and understand from many of you that this kind of transformative change is very difficult. But I believe that when the dust settles, CNCS and Senior Corps will be stronger, will be better because of the changes we're making today. We will look back and say, why didn't we do this sooner? I don't remember who said this, But there's a famous quote that reads something like this: "I cannot change the direction of the wind, but I can adjust my sails." I'm asking you to adjust your sails. We can't change TSP, but we can adjust our thinking, and we can put forward our best ideas for change that occurs in a way that benefits senior corps, our programs, our volunteers, and the communities that we serve. You should know that your board of directors for your associations, and I'm not drinking because of what I'm saying, I'm drinking because I need to drink. We've been meeting with them monthly about the transformation program. And I think one thing that's probably impacted me the most through this process was Janine, the president, hope you don't mind, Janine, from Foster Grandparents, said to me one day, and Janine and I have very honest conversations. She said, "You know, Debbie, there's a big difference between communication and dialogue." And she was absolutely right. I knew we had been communicating with you, but then I had to really sit and think, were we really having dialogue? So that's when we started reaching out more. I started to have the associations on calls. Betty and I met yesterday and talked deeply about things that we're moving forward. So I'm asking you, if you're a member of the associations, to please share your thoughts and ideas with your leadership, who will then share them with us. I can tell you that several ideas that have come forward have already been made because of your recommendations, and I hope you will continue to send them to us. Finally, let me say to you, during this change, you know, I've also become good friends with Lisa Marsh Ryerson, who is the president of the AARP Foundation. And AARP went through this just a while back, a few years ago. And Barbara and I were actually meeting with her, and she said, "You know, we went through a reorganization plan, and it was painful." She said, "But now we sit around a table and say, why didn't we do that earlier?" So guys, I'm not going to tell you the next few months might not be a little difficult, that it might be painful at times, but at the end of the day, 2 years from now, 6 months from now, 5 years from now, I hope that you say, "You know what? I was part of CNCS when we made it better for our programs, our volunteers, and for the communities we serve." I know the devil's in the details, and you still are waiting on a lot of details. But I will do my best to make sure that you get those details as I know them, and that we will continue to have dialogue about transformation. Now's when I have my closing, but I'm waiting on someone. But I will tell you that I'm not very good at ad-libbing. You guys make me nervous, you know, so that's why I have these notes up here. But I will tell you, through all this I've said to you today, it comes from the heart. And it's easy for it to come from my heart. You know, I remember the team telling me when I first came, you know, that word political appointee. They said, "We're surprised." I said, "Why are you surprised?" "Well, we didn't know you'd work." I'm like, "What?" Well, first of all, I was raised in this little farm town in southern Ohio, and my father and grandfather, everybody went to work. My first job, I sold ice cream at the Ohio State Fair when I was 6 years old, so you work. But I want you all to know that while I knew I'd come here and work, I never knew that the impact it would make on me as a person, on my life, the way I look at things, and it has. The impact that you all have had when I visit your programs, or you send me stories, or, you know, I communicate. I think that Savannah's here. Where's Savannah? Hey. Hi, Georgia. I think I surprised you yesterday, didn't I? You did. So I was there last fall, a year ago, right? About a year ago, right? And I met a gentleman named Ray Young. How old is he? 93. And it was his birthday. And so I got to meet Ray on his birthday. And so I ran into them yesterday and I said, "How's Mr. Young doing?" And she went, "What?" That I remembered his name. But Mr. Young's name's not why I remember him. I remember him because he was 93 years old, could run circles around me, was still serving. But it also shows you the impact that you all have every day. And whenever my time is done here, I will continue to serve in some way, shape, or form because you all have made that much of an impact on my life, and I appreciate that. Now I know what a stand-up comedian has when the audience doesn't laugh or say anything, what you have to do. I can tell you a couple other innovations that we're doing. So I've gotten a new friend, and it's Jody Olson, the director of the Peace Corps. You know, I must have lived a sheltered life in this little farm town in Ohio because I didn't know much about the Peace Corps. But Jody and I have become good friends. I was so proud because we just did a Twitter chat together on Older Americans Month, and I knew how to do Twitter, and Jody's staff did it for her, so yay. But one thing, we've had a very serious conversation and a theme that talks about you're never too old to serve. I did not know that 8% of all Peace Corps members are over the age of 60. So maybe that's what I'll do when I'm done. But we've been talking about a collaboration together. So seniors that apply for the Peace Corps, they're not all accepted. But guess what? We can accept them. Senior Corps can have Peace Corps volunteers, and we can exchange. And so I'm very excited about those kind of partnerships that we've also come along with. Donna Butts being here yesterday with United, Generations United. So there's just so much for us to do. So when you think that, and you go to sleep at night thinking about CHC, cut off that nightmare, turn on this dream, and think about all the things that we can do. So Jill, do you have anything you want to come up and add? How's that? Let me put it over on Jill. Just come up here.
Sure. So, as Debbie mentioned before, we've heard you say that we have a lot of questions about recruitment. We've had some great ideas that were shared in yesterday's plenary about recruitment, and we've heard about three new approaches that we're taking from headquarters at thinking about how to engage volunteers and forward what is common to all of our programs, which is mobilizing older adult volunteers into service in our communities. Should we see if there's any questions out there? You want to keep?
You can, as long as you're willing to answer.
All right. Debbie just said we could take questions as long as I'm willing to answer them, which I am. So, since we have been having such a rich dialogue about recruitment, maybe what we can do is talk a little bit more about that here today, right now. I'm looking at Brian. I think I'm the only one with a mic in the room. So, what I will go get one. Thank you. Does anyone have?
It can be about anything.
It could be about anything, but I think that we have had a lot of conversation about recruitment, sort of anecdotally, and it might be a nice way to use our time here together to share some more ideas. So, does anyone have a question or a thought that they would like to contribute about recruitment? What you're doing to approach recruitment in your neighborhood, how you might be able to use something like a Pathfinder or drive your folks to Pathfinder, which will be an online resource, and or any other like innovative ways of thinking about how to sort of bridge maybe bridge our world of recruitment with some of these new tools that we're talking about. Hi. In the
Hi.
back.
So Jill, I'm Trista from the Metro Detroit area RSVP. I learned something here from my colleagues networking that I wanted to share. It's a great tip that I want to try out. Other people who are making lawn signs for recruitment, and some of the foster grandparents, I think, that originally told me about it are putting them at the schools. So when the grandmas that do the drop-off, drop those grandkids off, they can learn about foster grandparent. And then I heard some other people make the lawn signs and they put them in volunteers' lawns. So not a question, but I thought that was a great tip to get the word out there.
That's a great idea, a new way of thinking about marketing our programs. One of the other things that I heard come up in a couple of conversations were perhaps instead of instead of looking first to things like senior centers, maybe expanding our view into rec centers and libraries, which are the new hot spots around town. I know I go to both of mine routinely and see a lot of new kinds of programming and activity happening in those spaces. Has anyone else seen anything like that? I'm going to hand the mic to Sam because she's offering us a resource.
Just a note on the serving, senior corps serving. Hi, I'm Sam. I serve as a spokesperson for the agency. I'm in external affairs at headquarters, if you haven't met me already. Just a note on the lawn signs. We do have those available in both the large size and the small size. We know that many of you are serving in schools, and so sometimes those lawn signs aren't a good fit for that. So there are 8.5 by 11 versions that can go in school windows. They're downloadable, so that you can put those in many of your sites. If you can't find them, just shoot us an email or come see me later. We'll help you figure that out.
So please just remember, we get all of our information from e-grants primarily, and so the more accurate your information is in e-grants, the better we are able to serve you.
So I can't tell you how delighted I was here to our next speaker confirm for today. I know that he has an appreciation for older adults, intergenerational activities, because for Denver's 160th anniversary, he asked Denver's older residents to send advice, and I think this is amazing, to the next generation on how they would preserve Denver's way of life. Amazing. In June, he was reelected for his third term as mayor of Denver and Denver County. I also hear secretly that he's a big fan of Senior Corps. So ladies and gentlemen, it was worth the wait. I'd like to introduce you to Denver's 45th mayor, the Honorable Michael Hancock.
Good afternoon, everyone. And let me apologize for being late. This is not something I do as a practice. It's my fault this time. Sitting and I was yakking over lunch and didn't realize what time it was. And then we had to travel 20 miles to get to you. So please accept my apologies, and I appreciate your patience. But I am so glad to be here with you this afternoon. Whether you are from Denver or from anywhere else around the country, welcome to the Mile High City. Have you had a good time? Good. And let me thank Senior Corps for the tremendous work that you do to ready, prepare, and to dispatch and engage, of course, our seniors, our older adults. I try not to say seniors, but older adults in really servicing our community, engaging in our community, because I'll tell you that there's no greater army, no more dependable army of people to engage and to help lift this community up in service than our older adults who do it every day throughout the city of Denver. I just want to say a couple things to you. What we try to do here in Denver is really take the advice of building a city for everyone from 8 months to 88 years of age. Not to say that after you're 88 that you don't matter. But we believe that if we build our public spaces, if we build our values around serving people through that age range, we pretty much get everyone. And that we should always find a way to honor and to make sure that our older adults feel like they're worthy and they matter in our city. I often tell this story, and this framework is that when it comes to policy making, I actually think through the reference of my own life. Unfortunately, as policymakers, when we get elected, we tend to remove ourselves from the couch. And what I mean by that is we forget that we're citizens. We forget that we are people with normal thinking processes. And so when we're faced with a challenge or an opportunity, we oftentimes try to imagine what someone else is thinking when we forget that the greatest source of reference is ourselves and the people who are around us immediately every day. So one day while visiting my mother, who's 88, who's 80 years old today, and is doing well after some health challenges. My beloved mother, who I refer to affectionately as my dear, Charlene, I was talking to her one day, and I noticed that she wasn't as active as I would have encouraged her to be. So I said, Mom, you live across the street from a rec center. So why don't you go across the street? You know, they have great older adult programs during the daytime. They take trips. You do arts, you do craft, you play cards. They have exercise programs. And she said two things to me. She said, first of all, I want to be with them old people. And I said, Mother, I hate to break this to you, but you're old. This is how our conversation goes all the time. And she said, besides, I can't afford the membership. And the rec centers are under the city, and it broke my heart to hear my mother say that. And then the reality, again, from my own reference, if my mother is struggling with this, how many other adults find themselves isolated and not engaging because they fear they can't afford to do something? So I went back to my office, and I remember meeting with our Parks and Rec team, and I said, I want you to find a way for us to better engage our older adults in our rec programs. And they did, and they came back, and they said, Mayor, we actually had the answer right in front of us. When you wanted to engage young people, you created the My Denver card. And now you have, instead of 700 kids members of the rec program, over 100,000 kids who are members of the rec program. So we're going to create the My Denver Prime. And we're going to say to our older adults who are 60 years and older, we invite you in free of charge. And yeah. And you know what it's done? It has quadrupled the number of older adults who have become members of our rec program. They're swimming, they're coming in every day, and they're engaging, and we're breaking really through the walls of isolation for our older adults. We want our older adults to have the same access of quality of life, improved or increased or highest quality of life as they did when they were in their prime. And we want them to be engaged. We want them volunteering. We want them to access second careers if they want to. We want them to know that they're worthy and they matter. And so when I look and think about what Senior Corps is doing in our life, in the life of our community, what they're doing all over the country with all of you represent, we simply got to say thank you. Because I'm grateful that my mother can engage if she wants to. I want to keep her here as long as I can. And I want her to have the highest level of quality of life as she possibly can. And so as I leave, I just want to share with you what Debbie said. I read a book entitled What Keeps Me Standing by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. And what he did as a motivational speaker going all over the world is he would begin to challenge his audiences. If you are 60 and older, I want you to write me a letter. I want you to write me a letter that is involving the advice you will give the next generation as they become the stewards of this great nation and this society of ours. And as Denver turned 160, I read that book years ago. It would break you. I'm telling you, you cannot read this book without going to tears. And so I gave this book to my mother, to my mother-in-law, as gifts for Christmas. And they cherish these books. I go in their rooms, both of them have the books sitting on their nightstands because the book is so rich with advice. Women and men all over the world who are older adults have put in some of the most unbelievable, heart motivated advice to the next generation. And as Denver turned 160, I started saying that to audiences in Denver. If you're here and you're from Denver or Colorado, matter of fact, I don't care where you're from, write me a letter. I'd love to hear from you. What advice you would give the next generation? Because we're compiling these and we're going to issue these publicly. I think you have something to say. And you know what? Actually, you're the best resource in terms of giving the next generation advice because you've seen it. We've all been around our children and our grandchildren who said, you don't understand. We say, you act like I just turned 50 and didn't go through my teens and my early 20s. Ain't nothing new that you're dealing with that I haven't seen. It's new to you. But that advice is rich. And so you can send it to us through our denvergov.org/my, what's the name of it? Denver's Next 160. We'd love to hear from you. But thank you for being here. Thank you for what you do for the life of our community. You're worthy and you matter. Thank you for making a difference in the life of our nation and our communities.
Thank you, Mayor Hancock. Thank you so much. Ken, I now have a challenge for you. Don't forget Denver Prime and Senior Corps Matters. So let's get on the stick. No pressure. And I'm not even drinking. So you know what? Let me say to you as we close that you're some of the most dedicated individuals that I've been able to come to know. You understand the importance of volunteering and understand the impact that you have in your communities. I'm thankful that I have all of you on our team to help to spread the message of Senior Corps, of our impact to others, and to make our nation a better place. Senior Corps has tremendous momentum right now, but I intend to work to see, as I told you earlier, that we keep moving forward in the direction that makes us, our programs, a household name. As a reminder, our next seminar is focused on opioids, such a crucial issue of our time, and will be in Columbus, Ohio, July 17th and 18th. I hope to see many of you there. And before I forget, and I never forget this, I would like to thank all of my Senior Corps staff, both those that you've met in the room today and those that are working behind the scenes in DC, for the great work that they've done on this convening, future convenings, but the great work they do every day, because they always keep your mission in mind. So thank you to my Senior Corps staff. Melissa, you were going to let me get past this and forget this, weren't you? See, I'm 65. I have to write things down. Hi, Melissa. Brian, we need to let Melissa finish before we say goodbye.
The national website is there's a focus on that. We'll be able to direct volunteers to the local connection. And I'm just wondering, and I heard foster grandparent program here today about how they're helping their volunteers become more computer literate through their in-service training and stuff. And I'm just wondering, I'm wondering what are some ideas from other programs and maybe what kind of support we might be getting down the line nationally to help bring the older generation and our electronic communication systems together a little bit more. Did that make any sense?
It makes all the sense in the world. Actually, I think we were just having a conversation about that earlier. Of course, it's a perfect intergenerational program, but at the same time, as we think about our national recruitment, as we think about putting things on the website, I also have to be cognizant of the fact that we have many volunteers that do not use the internet, that do not have emails, that still write letters, which I love. So yes, this might be a good letter writing to me, would be how do you work with seniors who don't have technology, or how do you work with seniors that you're teaching technology to? So let's make that a conversation, and you will hear about it again in Columbus. But Brian, it might be a good Tuesday talk also.
Absolutely. So if anybody out there has some solutions or some creative ideas, make sure you get them to us. That way we can spotlight you on a webinar or the next time we all get together in person, so we can really harness your best ideas and get them back out to the community.
Yeah. So I know we've got some workshops going on. I hope you do stick around. Next one starts at 2:30. But before we leave the venue today, I just want to again wish you the most continued success in your programs. We will follow up on the questions and the thoughts and the recommendations that we've heard here these last 2 days. Thank you for coming and participating in this seminar. Safe return to your destinations, and let me remind you, Senior Corps works. Thank you.